So we're going to get started. Thank you all for joining us for tonight's webinar, How AP Language Courses Impact Your College Application and Course Planning in High School. My name is Chang Liu. I am the Associate Director of Business Development at InGenius Prep. Feel free to take a moment to write down my email address so you can contact me to set up a one-on-one complimentary consultation for college admission strategy. And especially thank you to Idioma Education and Consulting for partnering with InGenius Prep in supporting students' college admission journey. Before we start, for those of you who haven't had a chance to let us know if you're a student or parent or teachers joining us tonight, we would love it if you would type your answer in the chat. Okay, awesome. Now on to some light housekeeping. For tonight's webinar, please submit any comments or replies in the chat. Please don't use the raise hand feature. We won't be able to see it. Submit questions you have for the speakers in the Q&A session, and you can click the closed captions button to enable the feature. Today, we're very fortunate to have two speakers, Natalia Otrovsky. Natalia is the former Assistant Director of Admissions at the University of Chicago. Her wealth of experience brings invaluable insights into the world of admissions, and she has helped students gain admission to Brown, Duke, Dartmouth, Yale, MIT, Columbia, Cornell, and so many more. Additionally, we have the honor of welcoming Elisa Kirchhofer, a marketing director and instructional coach with Idioma Education and Consulting, former high school French and Spanish educator. Under her mentorship, students have attained impressive levels of language proficiency and exceptional AP language exam scores. Here is what we'll cover today. I'd like to briefly introduce InGenius Prep, who we are and what we do. InGenius Prep is a leading college admission consulting company. Our company was founded in 2013 on Yale's campus. Our expert staff is composed of over 150 former admission officers and 75 graduate coaches across the top 30 U.S. universities committed to supporting students to achieve their dreams. Letting the results speak for themselves. In 2023 alone, our students received 86 Ivy League, 112 top 10, and over 400 top 30 universities offers. In 2024, so far, our students have received 41 Ivy League, 48 top 10, and over 163 top 30 universities offers. We've received fantastic updates from our students following Ivy Day, which was yesterday. Impressively, our students secured 4 offers from Princeton, 2 from Harvard, 9 from UPenn, 5 from Duke, 4 from Brown, 10 from Columbia, 4 from Cornell, and 14 offers from UC Berkeley. With 75% of our students admitted to their reach schools and 97% of our students admitted to at least one reach or target school, leveraging InGenius Prep increases students' chances by 7 times to get into top 10 universities. The InGenius Prep advantage includes a unique dual mentor system. A former admissions officer and a graduate coach partner together for students to ensure a personalized and tailored approach. Our comprehensive resources include candidacy building, application counseling, personalized writing classes for grades 9th to 11th, final application review for 12th grade students, and additionally an academic mentorship program where students work with professors, lecturers, and PhD candidates to assist with research and produce tangible outcomes. We also have a leadership and innovation lab that provides students with entrepreneurial experience, giving them a competitive edge in the application process. Students will learn critical skills around leadership, project management, and executing and validating business ideas. All of these programs are tailored to elevate students' academic journeys. Please feel free to share our information with family and friends so we can empower the next generation of leaders together. Now I'll pass it over to Natalia to talk about how to stand out in the college admissions process and course selection.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chang. Right. So, and I'll apologize in advance. I do have a bit of a cough, so don't worry about me. I'm okay. I'll just drink some water, but just be aware that may happen out of nowhere. Um, so how are applications processed? For the teachers in the room, you probably already know, but for the students and parents, what happens is if you're a student, you, or if you're a parent, your child will submit their application through most likely the Common App portal. Some schools have their own portals, so their own applications of the Common App, like the University of California system, MIT, Georgetown, are the ones that really come top of mind. But these admissions files are sent digitally. Luckily, when I was an admissions officer, it was already that was the case. I didn't have to take physical files with me, although when I applied to college, I still sent in a paper application to the University of Chicago. So that was quite the experience. So I don't envy those admissions officers at all for having to take all those files home with them. But we read by region. So my main region was India, and I also read for the Middle East, the rest of South and Southeast Asia, couple other places. So I was traveling to these places. I was meeting with counselors, sometimes meeting with teachers, meeting with students, and learning about them, learning about their high school, learning about the type of curriculum they're on, understanding what types of opportunities they have for higher level courses, such as AP language courses, etc. And I was really kind of the location regional expert. And as I would read applications, typically by school group, I would really try to get a sense of the student within their high school context and within their regional context. After that, there's different schools do it in different ways, but at UChicago, how we would do it is, let's say Elise was the counselor for Europe. We would swap applications, and we would look at the student more on the lens of, oh, is this a good fit for UChicago, rather than like, oh, how does this student fit in within the French context or something like that for me, just because I wouldn't necessarily know specific school information. So then once we swapped that information, I, as the first reader, would read Elise's comments and make my final decision. And we would come to committee, bring lots of baked goods to, make sure everyone was really listening to our pitches for the students we wanted to admit, and talk about it. You really want to be memorable in your application, and we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that through your course selection. Of course, there's a holistic reading process and so many important things in the application. But once the decision is made in the committee room, again, depends on the school. But, we weren't the last people making the final cut. Even if a student was in the admit pile at the end of committee, things still shuffle around, as the dean of admissions is the one with the final say on everything, and making sure the class is well balanced in terms of all different kinds of ways, region, subject area. One time we got an email asking for a student who was interested in French history, biology, and could play the French horn. And they were like, look for this student. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, will do. So, there's sometimes those kinds of needs. So how do we compare applications within and across high schools? A lot of different things. I mean, the big thing that we look for, hopefully, as an admissions officer, we're able to visit the high school. We're able to meet with the teachers and the counselors and, of course, the students. But we're looking at the student in the context of your high school primarily, and then the context of your region, especially for international students. So all the things you see here, excuse me, on the screen, is how we kind of take a look at who you are and how you compare to what's available to you, how you've been able to take advantage of your resources. Some high schools definitely have relationships with admissions officers that are closer than others. This often correlates to resources, but oftentimes colleges really do make an effort, particularly the well-funded and highly selective colleges, try to make an effort to visit not only the most well-resourced high school so that they can get an idea of yes, right? It would be a very boring place if very boring college experience if all the people were from similar kinds of backgrounds and places. And then, how do you compare to that? How are you taking advantage of the courses available to you, the extracurriculars? How are you, what's your initiative in terms of leadership? And then also what's your personal background? So these are all things that the admission officer is taking into consideration when they read your application. So you're really competing against students in your high school and the region. So really maximizing what's available to you is the best thing you can do to elevate your chances at an admissions pool. Oh, did see, okay. I did see a question, which I'll answer. We serve high school students all over the world. So yeah, no problem there. We work with students in the US and outside as well. I work with a couple of 8th graders at this point, so definitely welcome. Okay, so let's talk about course selection. Here's a true or false question. Getting all A's while taking easy classes is more impressive than getting lower grades while taking more rigorous classes. What do you all think? You can put this in the chat. False. Okay. Let's see. False. Correct. Yeah. So definitely you want to see an increase in rigor and an increase in grades over time. Um, so sorry. If you're getting, ideally you're getting all A's in all the hardest classes, but that's not always possible. So, if you're getting a B here and there, but you're taking the most rigorous courses and you're really challenging yourself and you're bringing your A game to the classroom, that's all you can ask for as an admissions officer. That's what they'll be looking for in the letters of recommendation, for the teachers to be saying, this isn't my best student in terms of grades, but they work the hardest. They try the hardest. They put in the most effort. They really come for help from me and their colleagues and, or colleagues, their peers, their classmates. So I think that's a really wonderful thing that you can see from a letter of recommendation from those types of students versus a student who just coasts through all the regular classes, gets all A's and doesn't challenge themselves. Okay. How do you select your courses? Take a look at what's available to you and what are the requirements at your school. The school profile is a perfect place to start. This is where admissions officers also start if they are not familiar with your school. This is where they glean the most information about your school and what types of courses and what kind of rigor the school offers. You'll also want to go into the course descriptions. You'll likely have a course guide that tells you, like, do you have a prerequisite for this class? What is the highest level of math you can take? And kind of reverse engineer from there. Okay, if I want to take an advanced seminar in mathematics honors, or I should look at the language one. If I should take AP Spanish language and literature or literature and culture, sorry. What classes do I need to take, in 9th grade so I could get to AP Spanish? So definitely see as if you're, for younger students and parents of younger students, definitely think about this as you are looking at the course list. It's not just, oh, what do I want to sign up for in ninth grade, but oh, where do I want to end up? What is the highest rigor that I can aspire to, and see if it makes sense in terms of where you're at, in terms of your level, and can you get there over time? Okay. This is an amazing class list, by the way. I would love to have taken AP Latin. I think my high school had 5 AP classes, maybe. Okay. Which is okay. It's also okay if your school does not have, this impressive list of AP courses. Again, it's all about what's available to you. And if you are one of the students that doesn't have such an amazing range of classes and languages, you can also take languages outside of your high school, either at a community college or privately, or just online. We were just talking before the call that now AI is starting to pop up as a language learning tool, and I don't know how successful that is, but there's nothing like speaking with someone. I know that there are many other ways to learn language where you could actually speak to a real person that doesn't have to break the bank. So yeah, definitely a lot of opportunities for that. And I'll let Elisa talk more about that. Elisa, sorry. Okay, academic interests. So definitely things that align with your interests, support your application persona, which is kind of, your why in your application, your story, demonstrating your grasp in a particular field, and then are more challenging in your favorite subject. I will say this is definitely, on point, but when you get to the top, the creme de la creme, they want to see that you're challenging yourself in all subjects, even if they're not particularly your favorite. So consider that. Also, I mean, this one is really important, your ability and your potential. You don't want to be signing up for higher level courses where you're going to be getting C's or lower. Be realistic, keep in mind your mental health, keep in mind the balance of your courses. Nobody's going to push you to take the hardest level of classes if you can't handle it, either academically or just in terms of your mental health. So disclaimer there. Balance, that's definitely a big one here. Again, depending, here, what's going to be your potential major, right? To balance that level of rigor for math, etc. Okay, so true or false? I'm just gonna skip through. I think you all know there's no minimum number of APs that a college looks for. Just like in my example, my school had a total of 5 APs. I don't even think I was able to take all of them because of the course structure was couldn't physically do it. I would need what was that thing that Hermione had in Harry Potter to go back in time and do another class and hide from myself. But yeah, if in some cases you can take them all, but it's not a big deal if you can't. The deal is that you do well in the classes that you are taking. Here's some examples. Obviously, not all schools will have linear algebra or multivariable calculus, so, not possible. A lot of schools, the highest they have is AP calculus or statistics, so that's totally appropriate. But if your school does have something like multivariable calculus and linear algebra, those are definitely classes you want to aspire to, particularly if you're interested in STEM or, an econ major or something like that. Our social studies track, again, if you have those AP history, AP government classes, you definitely want to be aspiring to those if you're able to. And with language too, obviously, we want to have that AP language by that senior year, of course, for those most rigorous course loads. So think about your course lists strategically. When I work with students, even 8th graders going into 9th grade, we map out all 4 years. This obviously is not necessarily going to look exactly how we map it out, but at least they're aware of what classes their high school offers, what kind of rigor exists there, and like what to look forward to over time. Grades and patterns. So I alluded to this previously. You want a transcript with an upward trajectory, both in grades and difficulty. The things really, oh, I want to see the slide again. Sure, here you go. So you definitely want to make sure that the admissions officer isn't noting down any red flags, right? So C's, B minuses, something weird. Maybe you got sick, right? Maybe your family member got sick and had to take care of them. That's always a way to explain that in the additional information section through the counselor letter of recommendation. Obviously, those are all explainable things. But yes, these are things that you definitely want to address if that exists. Yeah. Right. So GPA matters, but also like how does your GPA, like what is the meat of it, right? Are you using organic or, something questionable? All right. Extracurricular activities. So why do they matter? Admissions officers want to know that you're going to be an active member of their community. They want to know, not only are you going to be an active member while you're in college, but after college, right? Are you going to be the person who is putting together their alumni reunions, right? Are you going to be part of those committees? Are you going to be someone who, wins the Nobel Prize, right? Those are things that they're looking for from their applicants, and they're how do you contribute to society now is an indicator of how you will do it on campus and beyond. So really want to see how you do that. Obviously, not everyone is able to do like super aspirational work. Some of us, have to work to contribute to their family in high school or take care of siblings, and that's also really important. But how also do you, so if the student does have that situation, that's totally fine. But how are you also connecting with your school community, right? That's also an important way of showing how you spend your time. So here are some examples of activities, including sports, right? Arts, cultural, right? A lot of language stuff can happen here. Some amazing, so my background is that I'm Polish, so I was definitely part of Polish club, and we would get together and cook pierogi and all that stuff. So it's really fun. How are they evaluated? So colleges all have a sense of, how are you evaluated? This top one, I mean, this is going to be pretty rare. I would say most students who are admitted to schools are probably in the 2 or 3, pretty rare to be in the top 1 there. But yeah, you don't want to be at the bottom, that you're just not contributing at all. Your participation level matters, right? It's nice to have leadership, and remember that leadership isn't like very official leadership titles like school president, class president, or whatever. That's great, but you could also have impact as it to one person. Like maybe if you tutor someone or if you take care of someone, that's also leadership. So remember those aspects of leadership as well. While it's nice to have that, president of this club or CEO of this nonprofit, like that's wonderful. But also know that there are also impactful leadership positions you can have that aren't, like official leadership positions. But what you also want to do, remember that upward trajectory, that also includes, that 9th and 10th grade period is interest exploration, you're getting your chops, right? And then you can be a leader in the areas that you're interested in and excited about in 11th and 12th grade. How are you using all of that information and knowledge you've learned to impact and help other people? Okay. So here's some examples. So for the STEM one, you join a bunch of club, you try a bunch of things, read, do programs, take classes, see what you like and don't like, stick with the things that you like. For example, the student becomes the math club president, start winning some things. And then in 12th grade, expand on that even more. For the humanities, so this one I really like because you go on to publish poetry, right? You don't have to publish it through Random House. You can self-publish, so remember that. Really cool stuff going on here. Some really, I feel like, I get a lot of STEM students and I get really excited when I get a humanities student because there's so many cool things you can do. And I don't know, I've been meeting with some younger students recently and they all love to read and it just makes me so happy. So if you don't have a reading habit and you're a student, make sure you have a reading habit 10 minutes before bed every night, and then you can fall asleep reading something good. Oh, did I skip a slide? No. So that's it for me. These are our results, which you have heard about already from Chang. And I think these are, getting even higher. And then this is, again, our various programs, really awesome. One of the things I'll just say about the students, I had a few students this past cycle that I started working with since 9th grade, and all of them except for one who applied to Stanford, and that's a mountain, quite a mountain, got in early decision. So I think it makes a big difference starting early with this process because we can really get to know the students, the trust that is there, that is built over the years. Really, I think you reap the benefits during the application process because you have such a good relationship with the counselor and the student, and they're really able to kind of help guide the student, take the most interesting bits, help them build their best application based on, their work for the past several years. So that's my plug for candidacy building from a younger age. And yeah, we have a lot of amazing things. Some of our students will do academic mentorships with professors. This is adjacent to language learning, but I had a student who is now in a master's program, but she went to Chicago and she read The Republic with a professor, and they just talked about it. And she wrote a couple of small essays, and that was her mentorship, and she loved it. And she went on to translate poetry as part of her interest. And I think she ended up being a philosophy major. So some really, really cool things that students do with their mentors. And yeah, but I want to make sure Elisa has enough time to go into her presentation. So I'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Natalia. I really appreciate how your service provides that support for the students and that mentorship piece. And I think we share that in common because really our mission at Idioma is supporting world language teachers. And some of that is with our programming, with our courses that teachers can take for recertification requirements in their state, or for graduate level courses to move up on the salary scale, or even our master's program in partnership with CSU Pueblo to be able to move forward in the licensure process. There are some states that require a master's degree to teach with the professional license. So mentoring teachers through that licensure process is really important to us. I was an alternate route teaching candidate. When I first started teaching, I came from a different career and I didn't have any of that mentorship or support going through my alternate route process. And so for me, being able to do that now for teachers in New Jersey, specifically, we're working with the state of New Jersey, and I think back to my high school experience also, if I had mentorship through that through my high school I mean, I took whatever classes were interesting to me, which were humanities. I am that kid. But certainly I might have made I transferred colleges 3 times. I might have made different college choices if I had had some more coaching and mentorship through that process. So what you're doing for students is really important. Thank you for that work. So thank you. I'm Elisa Kirschhofer. I'm marketing director with Idioma Education and Consulting, but probably more importantly, I'm an instructional coach and I teach some of our graduate level courses, and really kind of whatever it is that our teachers need, I'm happy to work with them and with our president and founder, Melissa Wallace. We work really hard to support our world language teaching community. So teachers out there, thank you so much for being here. If you already teach AP, none of this is probably going to be new for you. Maybe when we get into talking about CELA biliteracy and how these two programs work together, that might be new. But for parents and for students who aren't familiar with the AP process, this can be really enlightening. So the AP test it's the Advanced Placement Program, or the AP program. It enables willing and academically prepared students to pursue college level studies while they're still in high school. The AP program develops college level courses that high schools can choose to offer, and corresponding AP exams that are administered once a year. So each AP course that you take is going to culminate in the standardized college level assessment, the AP exam. They're always given in May. And in order for a school to be to offer AP courses, they do need to be authorized by the AP course audit. So when you see that AP designation in your course catalog, when you're choosing your classes for school, that means that they've been authorized by the AP course audit. So yeah, that's a little bit about kind of the introduction there. So benefits of taking AP courses: standing out on college applications, which Natalia already spoke to. And you can also earn college credit and or skip introductory courses in college. So most four-year colleges and universities in the US, as well as as many institutions in more than 100 other countries, they grant students credit, placement, or both for qualifying AP exams, which is pretty great. Before you even leave high school, you can be earning college credit. Save some money, which is really nice. For the AP language and culture exams, the languages that are offered, there's Chinese language and culture, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Latin, and then Spanish language and culture and Spanish literature and culture. Probably your more common AP language courses that you'll see in your course catalog are going to be the AP Spanish language and culture and AP French language and culture. Of course, it's going to depend on maybe where you live throughout the country. There's different regions are offering different languages, but most programs are going to have a French and Spanish AP, I would imagine. That's been my experience as a teacher as well. So the exam format, the exam is going to evaluate the students in all 3 communication modes through various formats. So the first section is going to be a multiple choice. There's an interpretive communication print text. So these students are going to read these authentic print materials. Those could be journalistic and literary texts. They can be announcements, advertisements, letters, charts, maps, and tables. Students are asked to identify the main ideas and supporting details, determine the meaning of vocabulary words in context, identify the author's point of view or the target audience, and demonstrate knowledge of the cultural or interdisciplinary information contained in the text. So this is really about demonstrating understanding of what you read. The second section is a multiple choice with audio. So this is going to be a listening section. They'll do interpretive communication, print and audio text, and they'll do an audio text section as well. So students are going to respond to questions about main ideas and supporting details. Some questions will require students to demonstrate their understanding of cultural or interdisciplinary information. And students will have time to read and preview read a preview of each section and skim the questions before listening to the audio, and all the audio text will be played twice. For the free response written, the students will do an interpersonal writing activity and they'll do a presentational writing activity. So the interpersonal writing is reading and replying to an email message. The presentational writing is writing an argumentative essay based on 3 sources. That includes an article, a table, graph, chart, or infographic, and a related audio source, which again is played twice. And that presents different viewpoints on a topic. Students will have access to the print sources and any notes that they take on the audio during the entire 40-minute writing period. So an example of one of those interpersonal writing tasks, for the theme Beauty and Aesthetics, the student was tasked with responding to Clara Martinez, who was the director of Fundación Arte y Vida, which is a nonprofit organization that promotes the study of art, architecture, and history in Spanish-speaking countries. The student has been selected as a finalist for a research scholarship in a Spanish-speaking country and needs to reply by deciding in which discipline, art, architecture, or history, and where they would like to study. So this is really a real world, could potentially be a real world situation that the student needs to respond to in the target language, in this case, Spanish. So the original email asked the student to respond to 2 questions. If you could choose, in which Spanish-speaking country would you wish to do your research and why? And which of the 3 academic disciplines mentioned previously interests you more? Explain providing details of your choice. For the presentational writing task, and these are examples from last year's exam, the theme was contemporary life, and it asks students whether intellectual capacity is the most important factor for academic success. So the first source, the article No Todo es Talento, discussed the factors that contribute to good results in academic performance and to success in life. The article leans more against intellectual capacity as the most important factor for academic success, and it also focuses more on personal success. The second source, the chart, Factores que influyen en los resultados académicos, shows percentages representing professors' perspective regarding factors that impact students' academic results. And the third source, the audio, is a presentation that differentiates academic performance and intellectual capacity. It presents ideas on multiple intelligences and emotional factors that can help in academic success, and suggests that students should be encouraged to try different activities like art, music, sports, which can impact academic performance. This is all speaking to what Natalia was just talking about also. And then the students have 40 minutes to write an argumentative essay based on the 3 sources. So again, another real world kind of experience, only they're having to write in the target language. Of course, the students are going to have to speak as well. So for their interpersonal speaking, they participate in 5 exchanges in a simulated conversation. I'll give an example of what that looks like in a second. And also deliver a 2-minute presentation in response to a prompt where they compare a cultural feature of a Spanish-speaking community in which they are familiar to their own community or another community. And this prompt, of course, will be language dependent. We're just doing the Spanish one as an example for this presentation, but all those languages that we mentioned in the earlier slide would look very similar. The test format is similar for all the languages. So students, for the interpersonal speaking task, students are tasked to respond verbally to prompts like, Hola, me alegra que podamos hablar sobre el Festival de Cine en la escuela. ¿Qué tipos de películas piensas que podemos incluir y por qué? Which in English is, hello, I'm happy that we can talk about the film festival at school. What types of films do you think we should include and why? Of course, a student taking this test at the AP level will understand that question and will be able to respond in Spanish in that question. They have 20 seconds to respond to the prompt, and then the conversation continues on the same topic with 4 more prompts, allowing 20 seconds between each prompt for the student to respond. So it's really simulating an interpersonal conversation, but the students really need to be listening to the questions, and then ideally they're also asking questions, even though the prompt isn't responding in real time to their question. but they're showing that they can navigate that experience. For the presentational speaking task, this is where they have to deliver an oral presentation comparing an aspect of the target culture with that of another community. So students are allowed in 4 minutes to read the topic and prepare the presentation, and then 2 minutes to deliver the presentation. So they have to compare their own community or any other community to an area of the Spanish-speaking world, demonstrating an understanding of the cultural features of the Spanish-speaking world. So it's not just about how well they speak Spanish or whichever target language. It's also about how well they understand those cultural features from that target culture. So the course theme for the cultural comparison task last year was global challenges, and the prompt asked students to compare the role of ecological habits in their own community or another community to those of the target community. So one of the challenges here is that students also need to know what some of those ecological habits are. And of course, those topics are covered throughout the course. So by the time they get to the end and they're taking the exam, they've covered these themes in pretty great depth. So for scoring, the AP exams are scored on a scale of 1 to 5. Many US colleges grant credit, like we talked about earlier, and or advanced placement, which means you can skip the equivalent course once you get to college for scores of 3 and above. My particular high school did not have an AP program, but I was able to take a college in the schools program. So when I started my undergrad, I already had a couple of college credits from being able to take advantage of a program like this, which is pretty great. So a score of 5 is going to be similar to an A+ or an A, and that means that you're extremely well qualified. And that goes all the way down to 1. You don't have to earn a 5 on an AP exam to be a desirable candidate for whichever university you're applying to. Of course, every AP student wants to earn a 5, but that's not the only factor, as Natalia spoke to earlier, not the only factor in deciding whether or not you're going to get admitted to the college. So the role of AP language scores in college applications and academic planning. So taking an AP course really demonstrates academic rigor. So AP courses are considered rigorous college level courses. So by earning a high score on the AP language exam, students demonstrate their ability to excel in a challenging academic setting, which can make them stand out among other applicants and showcase their commitment to academic excellence. We talked a little bit about college credit and placement already and college admission consideration. For academic planning and placement, AP language scores can help students make informed decisions regarding their academic path in college. So if they do really well in their AP class, their AP language class in high school, well, why not just continue on? For some students, that credit that they earn when they go into college from their AP language course can already put them on the path towards a language minor, or sometimes a language double major. If they're coming in and they don't have to take 1 or 2 courses, well, why not just go for the minor, or why not go for a double major? And then scholarship opportunities, which is great. So exceptional AP language scores can make students eligible for various scholarships and academic honors. Some colleges and organizations offer merit-based scholarships specifically for students who have demonstrated exceptional performance on AP exams. These scholarships can provide financial assistance and recognition for students' hard work and achievement, which scholarships we know are really helpful, especially if you have multiple children and you're thinking about how am I going to pay for college for all my kids. Here's a great way to take advantage of scholarship opportunities for your AP language classes. And then, of course, the Seal of Biliteracy Award, which is very near and dear to my heart. The Seal of Biliteracy is an award given by a school in recognition of the student's demonstrated proficiency in English and at least 1 other world language by graduation. A student's AP language scores can qualify them for the world language requirement of the Seal of Biliteracy for their state. I know that it does in the state of Massachusetts. Every state is different, and I'm super happy to say that at this point, all 50 states have a Seal of Biliteracy program in the state. So if you're curious about what AP score will qualify you for the world language requirement for the Seal of Biliteracy in your state, you can always reach out, and I'm happy to look at that with you. For for Massachusetts earning a 4 or a 5 on the AP exam, and in New Hampshire too, I think. That will give you the seal of biliteracy. So some test score strategies, which of course we always want to know, all right, well, how are we going to get that 5 on the AP exam? Because we're not going to take the AP to get a 2, right? We're really shooting for that 5. So taking advantage of the resources that are provided by College Board on the AP website is probably my #1 test strategy. Besides taking advantage of your AP teacher at school and making sure that you're really digging into the coursework and asking lots of questions, and all of the resources that are provided on the College Board website, super useful. Tons of the examples that I showed you earlier all came from the College Board website. Lots of ways for you to practice so that the test format itself doesn't feel strange. So understanding the exam format is really, anytime you sit down to take a test, half of the challenge is just figuring out, how do I take this test? Not even about the content exclusively. Practicing time management is another really important strategy. So developing effective time management skills is really crucial for the student to complete all sections of the exam within the allocated time. So during practice sessions, the student should time themselves to stimulate the actual exam conditions. And most AP teachers, if not all, are already making sure that they practice this during the AP as part of the AP coursework as well. Allocating specific time for each question or essay will help the student practice pacing themselves accordingly. Analyzing those sample essays and prompts that you can find on the College Board website, looking at those prompts from past exams to understand the expectations of the examiners is really helpful. So these resources are available on the website, like I mentioned, and by analyzing high score essays, the student can identify the strategies and techniques used by successful students. So you can actually go and look and see student examples on the website, and you can see how the evaluator evaluated that student response, so that you can kind of compare what your answers look like to what this qualifying student's answers look like, and you've got something to work toward. So paying attention to the structure, the argument development, the use of evidence, the clarity of expression, all these will help improve writing and speaking skills. Building those vocabulary and language skills also is really important. So enhancing vocabulary and language skills is really what's going to drive that effective communication and demonstrate the desired language proficiency. So students should read extensively in the target language across various genres, including articles, essays, and literary works. And paying attention to word choice, sentence structure, and rhetorical devices used by authors will really help the student incorporate advanced vocabulary and varied sentence structures into their own writing and speaking. The student should really also practice speaking and writing scenarios in which they're required to navigate different time frames. This is a really important indicator at the intermediate speaking and writing level, that students are able to navigate different time frames. So being able to speak in past, present, and future, describing, explaining, and expressing their opinion on a variety of topics, and demonstrating the ability to negotiate meaning in the target language. Developing strong analysis and argumentation skills. They should really focus on those analyzing text skills for analyzing text and rhetorical strategies, like we mentioned earlier, identifying the author's purpose and intended audience, evaluating the effectiveness of their arguments. By constructing well-reasoned and persuasive arguments supported by relevant evidence, the student can excel in the exam. And then seeking feedback and revision. So the student should really be actively seeking feedback from teachers, peers, online writing communities. Working with a language tutor can be really helpful also, especially if maybe, yeah, it could just be really helpful. By paying attention to areas of improvement based on that feedback, students can really enhance their communication skills and build those proficiency skills to be able to go for that 5 on the AP exam. So ideally, the student is accessing all of these strategies and supports in their AP course at school, but they can always take advantage of more opportunities to grow their skills outside of the classroom. The Seal of Biliteracy. So the Seal of Biliteracy, we mentioned earlier, it officially recognizes the student's proficiency in English and one or more other world languages. A student who earns the Seal of Biliteracy demonstrates a commitment to language learning, cultural understanding, and global competence. So having a Seal of Biliteracy award on a college application is sort of like an immediate, hey, look, I'm a competent global citizen. Which I know contributes to kind of that well-rounded student that colleges are looking for. So the benefits of earning the Seal of Biliteracy are similar to, and they complement high AP language exam scores. So that ability to earn college credit, certain states and certain universities are partnering with the states to start offering that college credit in the same way that the AP exam does. It, like we mentioned, helps the student stand out on college applications, and there are potential scholarship opportunities for Seal of Biliteracy as well. I wanted to share with you a student's perspective. So this is a former student of mine. Her name is Madeline Glover. She graduated from Sauhegan High School in Amherst, New Hampshire in 2022. She is a French speaker. Her mother is French, and so she speaks French at home with her mother, and now she is studying political science and international development at McGill University in Montreal. She did earn a 5 on the AP French Language and Culture exam in 2022 during COVID. And she also earned the Seal of Biliteracy in French, and she earned the Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish in 2022. So she is really an exceptional student all around, and language and culture was really important to her. And so she shared a video with us talking a little bit about her AP experience. I'm going to play that for you now. Or maybe Chong has to hit maybe Chong, do you have to hit play? Thank you. Do we have sound?
Reading,
Chong,
writing, speaking skills.
There we go. Okay.
Part about the AP French course curriculum was that I learned a lot more skills than I thought I would be learning. We, of course, covered the basic reading, writing, and speaking skills, but we also delved into art, culture, music, and film, and had really great classroom discussions about those. I really felt like I got a good sense of the different Francophone cultures around the world, of course, covering, daily life in France, but also learning more about the diasporas in Canada and on the African continent. I took the exam during COVID, so it might have looked a little bit different than it normally does. But throughout the school year, I prepared as if I was taking the in-person exam. So I really focused on my spoken articulation skills, my pronunciation, and my pacing to make sure that I could include enough information within the time span, but not take too long. My writing skills greatly improved as I practiced prompts and sample questions from past AP exams. I really feel like my grammar and spelling improved a lot throughout the year. That was my biggest kind of problem area at the beginning, but definitely practicing those skills throughout the year in preparation for the exam was very helpful, or even helpful now today. My essay organization also really improved throughout the year, and I think that has even helped me write my essays in English as well. Being able to formulate an effective response in a short time span. What sustained me through the class was really my interest in the French language and culture. I have French family, so it was a great opportunity for me to learn more about French language and culture, and I've really been able to communicate with my French family a lot better. And post-grad, the skills that have really stuck with me are those communication skills. I now live in Montreal where I go to school, and I feel very confident and comfortable communicating with locals, both on and off campus. And I've been much better able to communicate with my French family as well. So it was a really amazing opportunity for me to hone those skills and feel confident in my ability to speak and communicate in French.
There we go. Great. Okay.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you, Natalia and Elisa, for the comprehensive guide on standing out in the college admissions process and AP language introduction and AP language test strategies. Now we're going to take 5 to 10 minutes to answer all your questions. Please type your questions in the chat now. And we did receive a couple really good questions for the speakers. This one is from Brooke. I like that admissions officers are considering how students take advantage of what their school offers. Is there ever a concern that a school does simply not offer enough to prepare students for college?
This is a really good question, and I think it really just kind of comes down to your research on the school. There are, I think every state has like a school ranking system. I know my realtor sent it to me, as I was looking at buying homes. So I would certainly look into the various schools. In my experience, I didn't read any applications where I was like, oh, if only this student had, a better school. Like that really wasn't anything that I thought of. But I do think, it is worth looking into, the options that you have. And it certainly is something that, you know, if you have that privilege to look at as you're finding a place to live, then that's definitely something to pay attention to. But typically, I would say that the admission officer really is trying to bring the best out of students from all over the country and all over the world, right? Where that's why AP exams are actually so helpful, not only in terms of, because regardless of like quality, right, of a school as a whole, every school has some students that grade very harshly or grade very leniently, right? And so if you see a discrepancy between the AP exam score and the score on the transcript, that's actually it can be a great way to say, oh, okay, well, maybe the teacher was just grading really harshly, but the student ended up getting a 5 anyway, so there is that kind of context to that, or vice versa, where the student gets an A, but then gets a 2 in the AP exam score, that maybe there's like, a discrepancy there. So I think there are just multiple ways of really finding out, where the student is at. Are they ready for college level work for that particular school? But that's a really good question. And I would, just kind of consult those resources that are available about, how the school is, what are the school's results in terms of where students are going to college, and that should help glean some of that information.
Mhm. Another question is, if the student takes a language outside of school because the school doesn't offer it, is it important to take class at a school that gives credit, or is it okay to take the language classes with a private tutor?
Elisa, maybe you have an answer here. I can only speak from personal experience here. I took Polish. I mean, my family is Polish, and I went to Saturday school up until 8th grade. But so I didn't even take any classes in high school, but I ended up, so like my school didn't take AP credit, but I was able to take placement tests to pass out of language, and I passed out of all the language I needed. And I ended up taking Portuguese anyway, but I was still able to pass out of 2 years of language credits, so I still could take classes and graduate, or just not take as many classes to save a little bit of money. But it was a really nice. So in the sense that, Elisa will know more about like the actual credit piece. And I think it depends on the school and the region. But I would say, like, what resources do you have available to you? And the ultimate thing is learning the language, right? So I don't know, maybe that's not the answer Lisa wants me to say, but I'll let you take the rest of that one.
No, I agree. And if it were up to me, it would just be like, let's just we love language and culture, so let's just do this and let that enrich our lives and not have it always have to count for something. If the question is asking from a college admissions perspective, is it important that they take then I think that question goes back to you. If it's about what you were talking about, Natalia, how does that translate at the college level? Can they then test out of maybe a language requirement? Every student who's going into college, if there's a language requirement, there's going to be some kind of a placement exam, so that'll kind of take care of itself when they get there. You can also reach out to the district and find out who their Seal of Biliteracy coordinator is, and have your child do the Seal of Biliteracy exam, and then that can go on to their diploma, and that can be considered in their college admissions as well. So in terms of, each high school has different requirements as to whether or not they require language credit for graduation. So that's something to consider also. But I don't know, does it look better on a college application, Natalia, to have a
Well,
language
yeah,
credit?
most colleges want to see at least 1 or 2 years of language. And I would imagine that most high schools have that similar requirement. In terms of if there is not that availability, I think it depends what is the graduation requirement and then what is the requirement for the actual school. If you need at least 2 years of a language, you want to have that credit from somewhere, right? But if it's just for like enrichment, I think you can still put in an activity if you're not able to do a for credit course, because that might not be available to you. So you could always put as an activity, I take private lessons in French or Spanish or whatever. And I think that's also fine. But I think the additional piece of getting that seal of biliteracy, I think would help to codify that the student is taking that language outside of school, is really taking that initiative. So yeah, the codification is the important piece. So whether that is through the credit bearing, course or a seal of biliteracy, there's, I think, some flexibility there.
And we can take one more question here. How far ahead should high school students think of college applications with regards to taking AP language classes from 9th grade or 11th grade?
Earlier, the better, right? And kind of when we talked about like, where do you want to end up in senior year? Oftentimes, language is kind of left off the priority list, to my dismay, and I'm sure Lisa's too, but it should be a priority. There's so many amazing opportunities that students can get because they know more than one language. The student I was talking about previously from UChicago, she went to, I'm blanking on the name of the school, and Lisa, maybe you will be more familiar. It's like the language university. It starts with an M, I think. But it's too late in the day.
I was going to say Concordia College.
I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly, but she's now working she has her graduate degree, and she's going to be trying to work for the UN as a translator.
Oh, Middlebury.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And so she's in their California campus and living her best life. And that she wouldn't be able to do that if she hadn't studied French in high school. So it's just a really amazing thing to just know a language. So start early. Yeah.
Perfect. So navigating the increasingly complex journey to a student's dream school is harder than ever, but we're here to illuminate that path for you. If you're seeking an edge in the competitive world of college admissions, let us offer you a guiding hand. Please let us know if you would like a complimentary consultation with our admissions expert to guide your student for college admission success. And feel free to reach out to me by email if we didn't have enough time to answer your questions tonight. I'd be happy to connect you with our admissions expert. And again, please share InGenius prep information with your family or friends if you found the information in this webinar helpful, and feel free to reach out to Elissa if you're a teacher and you're looking for professional development opportunities.